Welcome back to the Deeper Thinking podcast, where we pull at the tangled threads of modern society to reveal what really lies beneath. Today, we're peeling back the layers of The Way, a BBC mini-drama released in February 2024. The show tackles industrial decline, political unrest, and the alienation felt by communities left behind. At the heart of this collaboration is none other than filmmaker Adam Curtis, working alongside actor Michael Sheen and writer James Graham. If you've seen Curtis's documentaries like The Power of Nightmares or A Hypernormalization, you'll know he's obsessed with uncovering the hidden systems of control that shape our lives, systems designed to neutralize any attempt at real change. In The Way, we see a similar theme unfold, but through a fictional narrative that echoes the real-world disillusionment Curtis has spent years documenting. The Way and Curtis's documentaries share a thematic focus on societal disillusionment and the systems of control that govern us, but their approach differs. The Way uses the personal story of the Driscoll family, who faced the closure of the steelworks in Port Talbot, Wales, to explore the impact of industrial decline on a small community. Curtis, on the other hand, presents a broader historical and political analysis, using archival footage and voiceovers to reveal how modern systems create comforting illusions that obscure the harsh realities of political and economic control. The Driscoll family's story is a metaphor for the much larger disillusionment gripping communities across the world. This isn't just a tale of one town, it's a reflection of the widespread disconnection many feel from the forces shaping their lives. The rise of AI, automation, and globalization has led to labour markets that look nothing like they did even a decade ago. Jobs that once provided identity and security, like those in the steelworks, are vanishing, leaving people adrift. This is exactly what Curtis has been warning us about for years. As old systems collapse, communities are left behind, sparking protests that burn brightly but often fail to change anything substantial. Think about Brexit, or the growing discontent with big tech's control over our lives. While movements arise in response to these forces, Curtis points out that they frequently get absorbed back into the very systems they aim to challenge, losing momentum and leaving the root causes intact. This disillusionment isn't confined to Port Talbot, it's unfolding across the world. Look at the Middle East, where ongoing conflicts between Israel and Palestine once again show how cycles of violence are sustained by hidden forces. Like Curtis has highlighted in his work, these geopolitical struggles are shaped by long-standing external interventions, colonial legacies, and foreign interests that trap communities in seemingly endless cycles of unrest. The protests and uprisings, though powerful, often fail to break free of the systems that keep them in place. Closer to home, the recent riots in the UK reflect a deepening economic discontent. In response to the cost of living crisis, citizens have taken to the streets, demanding change. But as we've seen before, these protests often burn brightly before fading, absorbed by the very structures they oppose. The Driscoll family's plight in The Way mirrors this. They aren't just losing jobs, they're losing a sense of control over their futures, much like those protesting today. And then there's the war between Russia and Ukraine, a stark reminder of how modern conflicts aren't just fought with armies, but with invisible systems, sanctions, digital propaganda, and economic leverage. Curtis has long warned about how power has shifted from visible, traditional institutions to these more diffuse, harder to dismantle forces. While Ukraine and Russia fight on the ground, the global players shaping the conflict use economic and digital systems to quietly exert control, leaving entire nations feeling powerless to change the outcome. In The Way, Owen Driscoll's journey mirrors this broader sense of powerlessness, especially in younger generations who feel overwhelmed by the complexity of the modern world. The rise in anxiety, depression, and the sense of disconnection isn't just a personal crisis. It's deeply tied to the political and economic systems Curtis critiques. Just like in his documentaries, the emotional toll of living in a world where we are increasingly alienated from the systems governing us takes center stage. But here's the twist. Much like Curtis's analysis, The Way doesn't just stop at industrial decline. It hints at something much larger. The shift in power from traditional institutions to invisible forces, algorithms, data and digital platforms. These forces, like the steelworks in Port Talbot, provide structure and identity, but are even harder to challenge because they operate behind the scenes. We don't see them as clearly as we do politicians or CEOs, but they exert a quiet yet enormous influence over our lives. Think of it this way. Just as the Driscolls are tied to the steelworks, many of us are now deeply dependent on digital systems we don't fully understand. The algorithms and platforms that quietly shape our decisions, from what news we see to what products we buy, are the new steelworks, and like Curtis's portrayal of power, they're nearly invisible, yet pervasive. For Curtis, this growing reliance on systems we can't control creates a deeper kind of disillusionment, one that often fuels populist movements. Look at the protests of the last decade, Brexit, Trump, the growing unrest across Europe. All started from a sense of anger at the status quo. But as Curtis points out, many of these movements struggle to create lasting change. The system bends but rarely breaks, absorbing these uprisings while leaving the underlying structures intact. To draw a deeper parallel, consider the film Children of Men, which, like The Way, deals with societal collapse and disillusionment. In both stories, we see individuals grappling with a world that seems to be veering off course, a world where hope feels like a distant memory. The personal struggles of the characters become metaphors for the larger systemic breakdowns that define their reality. The economic conditions that sparked the unrest in Port Talbot are mirrored by the disruptions of today, but they've taken on new, more insidious forms. Algorithms and AI quietly guide our behaviours, and Curtis's central critique that modern revolts fizzle out because they lack a coherent strategy feels more urgent than ever. The system may have evolved, but the disillusionment remains the same. Curtis, Sheen and Graham aren't just offering us a drama in the way, they're holding up a mirror, asking us to confront the very systems that keep us trapped in cycles of revolt and resignation. The challenge The Way presents is whether we can break free of these systems, whether we can imagine new ways of organising society that don't simply absorb dissent, but actually respond to the deeper issues at play. And that's the question we're left with today. Can we move beyond these cycles of disillusionment? Or are we doomed to repeat them, caught in a world where the systems of control are more hidden, more pervasive, and harder to dismantle than ever before? If The Way teaches us anything, it's that we cannot afford to remain passive passengers on this journey. The systems of control may be vast and complex, but perhaps it's in understanding them, pulling at their threads, that we begin to see new ways forward. Until next time, keep questioning, stay curious, and as always, think deeper.